Good morning. We have two people here this morning from Bethany Christian Services, and it's Lori and Sandra. And they have a table set up in the next room, so if you want to ask them about Bethany Christians, you can do that. And it is my pleasure and my privilege to introduce Lori, who will be our guest speaker this morning. So please join me in welcoming her to the pulpit.
So I think just loving them has been the biggest thing.
A safe family takes in a child, loves them like you would your own, and then sends them to be with mom and dad where they belong.
We saw this one email came through that just something about it. Like I just told Charlie, I was like, I think we're supposed to take in this child.
It was going to be a 6 to 9 week hosting. He needed temporary care until mom had a place. I called Dave, which Dave's birthday was the following day. So I said, I got you a baby for your birthday.
One of the great things about Safe Families, it's whole healing for the family. The goal is always reunification, so you're kind of like helping these families stay together.
Not just help take care of Hiroki, but in the end, taking care of Amy.
Hi, I'm Amy Matsushita. I'm Hiroki Matsushita's mom, and this is my Safe Families.
I mean, he is a part of our family, but you are too, and I hope that you feel like you belong. I hope you feel like you belong.
I do. You're like the best support I've had. It was really easy to talk to you about stuff, because, I don't know, I had a lot going on, and I didn't really have anyone to talk to. So I really felt like I was alone.
The idea is like, how can we really wrap around these families as a community and have them be part of our church family and part of our life? In a way, you're kind of helping stop this cycle of abuse, and you stop from kids continuously going in and out of foster care, and you kind of invite this whole family into your family. It's really beautiful.
Good, I don't have to hold a mic today. Good morning, everybody. I wanted to first start by saying thank you to Sharon and Judy for having me here today. Thank you. Also, I'd like to, we at Bethany appreciate your ongoing support here as a church. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. So I'd like to start by introducing myself. I'm Lori Cruz, and I have the privilege of working for Bethany Christian Services as the Safe Families for Children Coordinator for Massachusetts. Today, I would like to take a moment to talk about some hospitality and what God's commands are about being hospitable. So in Luke 14:12-14, then Jesus said to his host, when you give a luncheon or a dinner, do not invite your friends, your brothers, your sisters, or your relatives, or your rich friends, neighbors. If you do, then they may invite you back, so you will be repaid. But when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed. Although they cannot repay you, you will be repaid at the resurrection of the righteous. Rosaria Butterfield, the author of The Gospel Comes with a House Key, states that we cannot obey until we ourselves has received this grace and pick up our cross. We cannot obey until we lay down our life with all the false and worldly identities and idols. We cannot obey until we face the facts. The gospel comes in exchange for the life we once loved. But when we die to ourselves, we find the liberty to obey. God commands us as his children to be hospitable. Truly, how many of us are hospitable? I don't have my hand up because I struggled with it as well for a long time. Then one day while at church, a friend of mine invited me to a gala for some organization that I never heard of before. But I thought, hey, it's free, right? Why not? How many of us think that way, right? But what a beautiful venue. It was so elegant. And me, I'm feeling kind of out of sorts and I was out of my league, I just sat there and I listened. And listened to all the testimonies from foster parents and how joyful of an experience it was to adopt through Bethany. They also had a few young adults who spoke about their experience at Bethany Services and the impact the agency had on their lives. Now, you could say, why is it really a big deal? What their testimony is. Well, because I was also adopted, and I didn't have that good of experience. I went through a state funding organization, which through DCF and Child and Family Services, and isn't always as positive as Bethany it would be. Their testimonies touched me so much that all I can think about is how can I get involved with such a great organization? The answer was we always look for volunteers for Safe Families for Children. I had no idea what that was, but it didn't matter. I felt that God said, this is where I want you to be. So I became a family coach, and the only reason why I did not become a host family is because I didn't have that extra room for extra child or a pregnant woman. So I felt this was the best thing I could do, and that was 2 years ago. Now, 5 months ago, my last experience as a family coach was a mom who was about to give birth, and she had a 1-year-old little boy. And that child was being hosted by another family, but that family needed some assistance as well, so I was there to help the family. That's not all I did. Once mom came home from giving birth, I was able to go to the mom's house and help her out with her little ones. Now she's going from 1 child to 2 children under the age of 2. That's a challenge for most of us, but think about it. It is a young mom with a newborn and a toddler living in a shelter. It can be even more challenging. After speaking with a former coordinator, she had informed me that she will be leaving soon, and she asked me if I would be interested in applying for the position. And of course I said yes, and that's what brings me here today. In Matthew 25, Jesus says, "For whatever you did for the least of these, you did for me." We are truly the hands and feet of Jesus to these families. You see, 30 years ago, I was a single, young, inexperienced new mom who had been through many, many struggles. And I also had a hyper little boy. And I don't know if any of you have had hyper children before, but they can be a challenge. But I had no resources, nobody to reach out to. In fact, I remember one time asking my brother for help, if my son can stay with him for a week. And he says, I can't do what you do. I can't handle him. And how many of us can relate to that, right? So, of course, I had to end up dealing with it, but I remember one time where I was so worn out with working as a single mom and just having no supports, I ended up having a panic attack. So, I finally was able to contact a friend who was able to pick me up and my son. And she took me to her house where I was able to lay on her bed and sleep for hours on end while she took care of my child. And that was the rest I needed. This is where, now how many of you can actually relate to that, right? So this is where Safe Families for Children will come in. They didn't have it 30 years ago. But now we do, and Safe Families for Children is a network of volunteers from churches who are committed to extending support to local families in crisis. Volunteers and host families are called to make room in their home to welcome children for pregnant women into their lives. In Leviticus 19:33-34, when a foreigner resides among you in your land, do not mistreat them. A foreigner residing among us must be treated as your native born. Love them as yourself, for you were forgiven in Egypt. I am the Lord your God. Now, Bethany Christian Services is committed to keeping families intact. We are the olive branch that when parents are going through crisis, you can temporarily welcome them into your home, allowing parents to take the essential steps towards stability, while the child stays with you for a short short time, your impact lasts forever. With Bethany Services, parents voluntarily seek a safe place for their child due to a number of reasons, including they're giving birth to a second or another child. They don't have those supports, remember, or they have no one else that they can leave their child with, or there's an unexpected illness. There's homelessness, just our lack of extended families. Now, I know that there are much support out there and they don't know that we exist. So think about it. So when someone, be it a parent, a social worker, or a friend, gives me a call, I can meet that mom to see what the need is, and then I reach out to the volunteers. So if we don't have any volunteers, what do you think can happen? So I have a parent who's in desperate need. Now, if a mom goes into labor and she has to bring her child to the hospital, do you know what the hospital does immediately if they don't have any supports? They call DCF. Now, what happens when they're in DCF? They stay there for a while. It's very hard to get back. Now, the parent does not lose custody when they put their child in with safe families. So, and we also provide supports that when families are in distress, in meaning if they're really going through it and they're finding they have financial difficulties, they just lost their job and they do not have anybody, we can help lighten that burden as well. Or if they made a mistake and they have to go into rehab, whatever it is, we're got to be here to help our children in need, because then this could be a lifelong relationship. This isn't just, okay, I'm going to take you for a couple of days and no longer ever speak to them. We want to have the wraparound services. So life is so tough just trying to make it day to day. Never mind now trying to manage a job, single parenthood, no family supports. You're in total isolation. And now you're a mom of a toddler and you're 7 months pregnant. Again, alone. Where can you find help? God's 2 greatest commandments are to love God and love others. To love everyone equally is a true sign of your love for God and our desire to live Christ-like. Hospitality is known as entertaining and welcoming in guests and visitors. It is a genuine way to show love for others. Jesus tells us in Matthew 25:40, "Then whenever you do for the least of people, we do for him." The core of Safe Families is to offer grace-filled, lifelong relationships, something we all deeply need. Safe Families is a movement where all volunteers can make a difference in the lives of these families and children. And ways to volunteer is a host family. You can open up your home temporarily. It could be from 1 day to maybe 6 months. It depends on the need. You can also open up your home to a pregnant woman, and that could be the duration of her pregnancy, and then about 6 months to 9 months after she gives birth. And while she's in your home, we have family friends, which I'm going to go to next, to help them find housing. And they need to find ways of moving on, because you're opening your home up and it's going to be for a temporary stay. Because then after they leave, we probably will need someone else as well. So a family friend is exactly that, is a friend to, it could be the host mom, host family, it could be to the struggling pregnant mom, it could be the child, or it can be to the mom of that child who just placed their child in a host home. And we can go there and we can sit and pray with them. You can go and talk with them and just encourage them, help them with housing, help them get tips on how to, apply for food stamps, for medical, for whatever it is, help give them rides to their medical appointments as well. So every little bit helps. We have a volunteer that just can, if you can't be a family friend, and that's okay, we have other needs out there too. We need someone to help support for if they need diapers or if they need formula, whatever it is, we can help your services, because now what we call it's a wraparound service. So we ask for multiple volunteers throughout the church that can help one another. And then you guys are in control of all that, okay? And you don't have to be married. You can be single. You could be a single mom. You can be a widow. It doesn't matter. Everybody is welcome as long as you have a heart for it. This is a ministry that Jesus has called us each to do, to care for the orphan and the widow. Not only does Bethany have Safe Families for Children, but we also offer other services to assist our families in need. We have, such as a pregnancy counselor, and we have a pregnancy counselor right here, Sandra. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask her any questions today. And she's also available to, if anybody needs to speak, she can go to you and you could speak in confidentiality. And if you know of anybody in need, please reach out. And we also have an adoption counselor too, for those who are interested in adopting a child, where the biological mom cannot care for their child. And I know there's been some experience here with adoption, and you know what it's like, and we continue on support throughout years and years to help you with your process. In Hebrews 3:2, he was faithful to the one who appointed him, just as Moses was faithful in all God's house. Now, I just urge you to come and speak to me afterwards. And if you have any questions, concerns, I can also, there's many of you who want to have more information, I can come back and I can do a group and do an information session, and we can go through it more in depth. So I'm available to you. I will be your major contact through Safe Families for Children. So if you need anything, any assistance, I am here. Because what we want to do is we want to keep the child out of DCF custody. We want to keep the children intact, the families intact. Even though they're struggling, it does not mean they have to be taken away. It's okay if they're struggling. You know, I went through it and I kept my child. But you know, some people are losing their children. Some people are going into hospitals because they got to give birth and they're a good mom. But they're going to lose their child to DCF custody because they don't have any supports. And that child cannot go into the birthing room. Where are they going to go? There's nobody there to be there with them. So a social worker's got to come in. So we want to avoid that. So come and speak to me after. And Sandra's over there on the table right there. And if you have any questions, feel free to talk to me. And thank you so much. And God bless.